Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Friday, March 14th, 2025 Mechanical Ventilation, Plumbing, and Energy Code Committee meeting. Could we do a quick roll call, please?
Damon Doyle,
Here.
Todd Bayreuther,
Here.
Shell Anderson,
Here.
Ben Omura.
Here.
Justin declined the meeting. Pete Reiki, Katie Sheehan.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Okay. How many official committee members are there?
7.
7. Okay. Okay. This meeting kind of caught me by surprise, guys. I had anticipated it being as one as we typically are. And I have a presentation scheduled for 3 o'clock. I've got somebody ready to fill in for me, but if at all possible, if we can expedite, that'd be great. I may turn the meeting over to someone else if we're going to run long as we can maintain a quorum. So with that, is there anyone else, committee members or visitors that would like to introduce themselves? Please go ahead. Seeing no hands. Everybody wants to. Oh, there we go. Michael, go ahead. Michael, you're muted.
Sorry, it wouldn't unmute for me. There, got it.
There you go.
Hi, I'm Michael Barth, the Code Pros building code consultant and City of Ruston building official.
Wonderful.
Glad to be here today.
Great. Welcome aboard. Patrick, go ahead. Patrick, it looks like you're muted, maybe.
Is that better?
There you go.
Patrick Hanks for the Building Industry Association of Washington. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Anyone else?
Stuart Anderson, building official for City of Bremerton.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay, Chair would entertain a motion to review and approve the agenda.
Excuse me,
Yes,
Pardon?
go ahead.
Dale Sperling, property
Oh.
owner in downtown Bremerton.
Sorry, Dale. Thank you. I didn't see your hand go up.
Thank you.
Anyone else care to introduce themselves?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, there's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Ben.
Thank you, Ben. Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing or hearing none, all those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3 is to review and approve the minutes from January 17th. There was a link on the meeting agenda and also in the packet online. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes from January 17th?
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the meeting minutes? I wasn't present at this meeting, so I read through.
It's just not clear. Nobody's showing screen. Nobody's sharing screen.
I'm seeing the minutes on the screen.
Oh, you are? Okay. I've got my Zoom screwed up then. Thank
Yep. Okay, hearing no discussion on the meetings from January 17th, all those in favor?
you. Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passed. Can we go back to the agenda, please? Okay, next on the agenda is to review the residential tag recommendations on the 2024 integrated draft, not graft. That also is in your packet. Shell, I'm going to let you go ahead and give us a brief overview of what we got here and what we're hoping to accomplish.
Sure. And I'll probably hand it over to Krista, but basically the residential energy code tag met twice to review the integrated draft, which is the document that code proposals will be accepted against. So it's by no means final code. We take the Washington State Energy Code 2021 and we compare it against the 2021 or 2024 model code and take in general, the most stringent areas. We can also clean up a few things if we want. So that's the process. The tag then votes for all the changes that go through. There's a lot of discussion. We met for more than 8 hours. And in the end, so along with this, there's a letter and there's also a significant changes report. So tag members, when they thought a change was significant, or if staff thought they were significant, that was also noted in the report. So the report includes lots of changes that are considered significant. That's in a nutshell what we did, where we are, and the document. If it passes this committee and the council, will then go out for a CR 102 will then go out to accept code change proposals against. So the code is at the very, very, very starting gate of the whole process.
Wonderful, good summary. I'll note that the tag is shown in the second paragraph. In addition to the integrated document, also move forward the 2024 IECC as presented as an option to submit comments against and to possibly adopt. Is that correct?
I talked to a couple of people after the meeting and I haven't rewatched the meeting, but my understanding from the motion that it was to be included in the package. We can't do that for copyright reasons, but it is to be included in the package, and whether it is as a potential document to be adopted, that's, I guess, some people think it's that was the motion, and some people think the motion was simply to include it as a reference, so people could, for instance, take the ERI path from the model code and make a code change proposal based on that into the integrated draft. So unfortunately, I didn't have time to go back and watch it and see exactly how the motion was made to include that. But there was a motion that included a reference to the IECC or the model code along with the integrated draft. And yeah.
My recollection was that we submitted both for a review to accept amendments to, so they both stand in their entirety. So my recollection. Katie, go ahead.
Yeah, I was confused about this, and so I went back and did review the meeting, and I felt like it was confusing. And it doesn't really make sense to me to move both forward. It seems like we're working off of our draft. So I'd like to talk more about this and get a clearer understanding about what this means, because putting forth 2 drafts seems like that's not what we're charged with doing. It's just the 1 draft, right?
We have put forward multiple choices in the past. We put forward to table 406.3s, I believe all the way to the CR 103. Katie, do you remember who made the motion?
Yeah, I believe it was Greg, or is that right? Greg, was it you? I feel like I saw you on here.
I see Greg's got his hand up. Greg, can you
Yes,
can you
that was
your recollection?
I who made the motion, and just for a little backstory on why that was made, was basically when we had a proposal to use the IECC 2024 for the commercial tag. There was a lot of interest and a lot of people were interested in it, but the challenge was no one, when they opened up the code proposal period, no one wrote code proposals for the IEC 2024 even, and so that was the sticking point. And so this one was to say, you know what, we're going to have code proposals for both our integrated draft for the Washington State Energy Code, which is our own homegrown code, and the IEC 2024. So that way we can get code proposals for both. And then based on whatever options we like, we could put forth 2 different CR 102s.
That's my recollection as well. And I think this early in the process, that's totally in order. You know, we we've got a lot of work to do. We could come up with something completely different once all the code proposals are considered. Michelle, I wanted to ask a question. Clearly, our legislative directive is to incrementally increase the code stringency on every cycle. Do we have any measurement against our integrated draft? I know it's probably really premature, but is there any metric we're going by to try to determine how far we're going with this, and if we've gone too far, perhaps?
So there's the, report that came out. Each cycle, the council pays an entity to come out with a report to see how far we have gotten towards our 70% reduction from the 2006 codes. And that report shows that the modeling that was done suggests that we're well on the way to the 70% reduction. I guess if I could bring it up, I could see it, but there's kind of like a curved glide path, which is about a 14% reduction each cycle that gets us to the 70% reduction and 14% each cycle compared to the previous cycle. And in terms of that, we were actually ahead of that in the 2021 residential energy code. So we have less far to go to stay on track this cycle in 2024 than we have in other cycles.
That was my recollection as well. And I think, if I recall correctly, the accomplishments we made in 2021 was about a 38% jump. It was really pretty astounding. So we made a great leap in 2021.
Go ahead, Kristen.
Krista, go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify that the options that we've offered in the past were at the public hearing process and not for code change proposals. So there is a bit of a difference there.
Okay, but I assume you don't see any conflict or any large problem having two codes to consider proposals against.
I do see it as a bit of a confusing issue for those people who want to submit proposals on how they're supposed to do it. But other than that,
I seem, yeah, and have we started accepting proposals as of yet? Have we opened the window?
no, we have to approve the draft first.
Okay,
Yeah, so the process will be, it goes through this committee, then it goes to the council, and the council could vote next Friday to put it out for accepting code change proposals. That's the probably likely outcome of next Friday's council meeting.
okay, Katie?
Right. So just going back to what Annette kind of raised, we would accept then, if we were to accept both things, both drafts, people would be making proposals to either one, and then our staff has to integrate that.
I would understand that it'd be submitting proposals to either one or both. There are similarities and then a few differences, at least as far as chapter layout. And then some things like the ERI that are not included in the Washington one, but included in the model code proposal. So I think that a proposal would need to identify which code they were proposing to amend. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I still don't see how, like, if we've done all the work to create the integrated draft, and that is the Washington code, why would we accept proposals for the 2024 IECC?
Well, the integrated draft is not the Washington code. The integrated draft is simply a proposed document, as is the 2024 IECC. So there was much discussion on adopting reasons to adopt the 2024 IECC unamended. Somebody's got a mic on. Such as tax credit, funding issues that are now in place and come into play big time in November that require compliance with the model code. So those are some of the arguments I heard at the TAG meeting. So I think it's proper to put both forward. Chell, then Greg.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be very confusing. The motion to do that was made kind of towards the end, and I think we didn't properly discuss it. We did talk about with staff a bit about the possibility of that, and we've had two options that were smaller in the CR 102 process before, but we haven't, to the best of my knowledge, ever had options within the integrated draft process. And these would be substantial. I guess my biggest worry is that if half the code proposals are on one and half the code proposals are on the other, the tag could well decide at the beginning of the process to go with one or the other. And that would mean half the people who proposed would never even get a hearing for their proposals because we wouldn't even consider that code as a base code. I think that would be a great disservice to all the people who put time into doing code proposals. I guess I didn't interpret the motion in the way that you and Greg spoke about just now. So I think there might be confusion among the tag members who voted on what the actual motion was. So that's why I should have gone back and listened to what the actual motion was and how it was discussed, but I didn't have time between all the other tag meetings and my day job. So I don't think it would be a good idea to move forward with a second option within this process. Now, there was a lot of discussion of the ERI and whether that was included, and we went back and forth on that. And in the end, the ERI was not included in the integrated draft, the Washington State integrated draft. I think it could be a good option, and I think someone could submit a code change proposal to bring that in. And I thought that was one of the reasons why we wanted the integrated draft to also have a reference to the IEC, to the model code, so that people would look at the model code and could bring things like ERI back into it. But I don't think we should move forward with with having two completely different options in the integrated draft. I think that'll be a great disservice to people who put together code proposals.
So I'm reading what's on the screen here, and the second paragraph clearly says that in addition to the draft, the TAG voted to move forward the 2024 IECC as an option. And again, we could all go back and review the YouTube video. That was the takeaway that I had from the end of the meeting. Greg said the same thing. I would hope that the TAG and the TAG chair would ensure that we didn't quell half of the proposals right out of the gate. That would be, I think you're correct, it would be a disservice to the people who are commenting on the TAG. I think also, had that motion not passed, the TAG may not have concluded their work, because there are a lot of things in the 2024 IECC, and again, in particular, tax credits and financing options that require the 2024 IECC. So I think in my opinion, it's valid to have it in there. Greg, go ahead.
I don't think, if I may.
Go ahead.
I guess what would be the other option if we didn't move forward with one or the other is to essentially carry two completely different codes and develop both of those, which would of course take a lot more time, and in the end we'd have to decide between them. So it's just, I think I don't think it's a good idea to do that. And I think it's either we're gonna towards the beginning move one or the other and have to disregard half the proposals, or essentially create two different Washington State Energy Code residentials, which would take twice as much time. So I don't think it's a good idea.
Jill, I think it's hard to say that until we see the draft proposals come in, or the amendments rather. This is why, while it might be adding more work, was the will of the body. So, Greg, then Todd.
So I think it's important to highlight the reason why this was there. So it's been recognized that our code is extremely hard to maintain for our energy code because every other state takes the IECC and then they add amendments to it. We don't do that. We have our own custom code that doesn't even have the sections that line up the same, that we take aspects out of the IECC and apply it to the Washington State Energy Code. And it's become a ton of work. In fact, it was such a big problem that there was actually on the commercial side, they voted to create a work group to see, can we simplify our code because it's too hard to navigate, too much effort on staff time. The energy code always delays all the other codes and the last one to get done. And so the idea here is that we would look at the IECC and see what things do we have in our state code right now that we want to apply to the IECC so we don't lose energy efficiency. So what things do we need to bring forward? And then after we bring those forward, then maybe it would be easier to maintain and deal with going forward because now we're closer to the model code structure. And so that's really what the intent was. And it's been recognized through multiple like votes and work groups and things like that. And I mean, the only reason why the from what I ascertained during the commercial, because I mean that happened beforehand, but the commercial one, the only reason why they didn't accept the IECC code proposal was because no one had an opportunity to submit code change proposals for it. But if we had that opened up, then that would have been a good opportunity to say, hey, no, maybe we switch our basis to something else. And so that's what this is on the residential, trying to fix where we missed it on the commercial side. We're trying to do it on the residential side is, can we come closer in alignment to the model codes?
Okay, thank you, Greg. Todd?
Thank you, Chair. Is it a possibility that striker amendments are proposed? And is there a way to structure that? I know, you know, obviously a little bit about the energy code, but is that a possibility that full sections are could be striker amendments?
I hate to delve into legislative nomenclature and whatnot, not being totally versed in it. I think what we have in front of us and what was decided at the tag level was to move both forward and accept proposals on both. And I think until those proposals are generated, we really don't know what the universe is. So, but I mean, that's an interesting idea. I think that would be something that would happen at the tag level. Patrick?
Yes, thank you. I'll ditto Greg's analysis of what happened and why it happened, and then also note that you know, in my notes I have that the motion was to include the 2024 IECC as an option for proposals, and then the reason why there wasn't a lot of discussion is there was a call to question and there was no objections to it. So it was just voted on without much debate from the tag, and it was majority in favor of including as an option. And then I would think that if the tag gets, say, 50% based off of proposals based on the integrated draft and 50% based on the IECC, and they approve some mishmash of them, that there would then be correlation to figure out how to combine those in a way that makes sense for the CR 102. So it's not two separate code bodies. They would figure out a way to make it one code. Thank you.
Tend to agree. Thank you. Katie, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. In watching it, I do understand how there was confusion here, because what I remember people understanding is that the IECC would be referenced as an option for people to make proposals from. And that, I mean, I get that they were gonna forward both through, but it was a 5-minute conversation. It was not, or okay, it was around that. And if we're changing the basis for our code, it seems like there needs to be more of a conversation than, you know, at the very end of a very long meeting when everybody looked to be really tired, honestly. So I would just, I see it needed as a reference. I think that we've heard from our staff that it would be a heavy lift from them in an already heavy workload time. And I don't think that it seems like all the work on the integrated draft should be set aside. Not that it's set aside, but that it doesn't make sense to me to throw in the IECC in the last couple minutes of the tag meeting that happened.
Okay. Well, and certainly remember everyone to eat your Wheaties and pour a strong pot of coffee before any tag meeting. Don't bitter out at the end because there's lots to go on.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
I'll note that every one of our codes starts with the model code as a draft. Okay, and this was something we fought when we made the transition in 2006 from the uniform building codes to the international building codes. And this is the last code that doesn't use the model code as a base, but it doesn't mean that we can't transition to that. Okay, and again, I don't see a conflict yet until we start getting the code amendments in. We could get a preponderance of them for the draft or the model IECC and decide that that's the way to go. At the end of the day, we want to have a good code that is that increases our energy efficiency as per legislation. The documents that I saw was that the 2024 IECC was 6.8% more efficient than the 2021. And we already know and acknowledge that we had a 38% increase in efficiency in the last code. So I don't see it as a going backwards. I see it as giving some options out there for people to be able to submit code proposals to, and that's what we really want to do. Krista?
My understanding from the motion and the way it was worded and the context with comparing to the process with the commercial code and not considering the 2024 because we didn't have proposals that were aligned with that meant that any proposals that we received would have to be made to both the 2024 IECC and the integrated draft, not either or.
Okay.
So that doubles the workload for those people making the proposals, not necessarily for staff.
I'm not sure how that would have come out of the motion that was made at the tag level. You don't have to comment on all chapters of the code in order to make a code proposal. You can even go as far down as saying, hey, I'd like to see this sentence changed. So there's
Right, but you
I
have to
don't
make
see a
that
reason.
change to both the IECC and the integrated draft.
Well, not if you're making a change to something in the IECC that is not included in the integrated draft.
Or that's in the integrated draft and not in the IECC. But if
Precisely.
it's in both, but worded differently,
Then I think the proponent would be mostly correct to try to do both. I think you're right in that respect. Gavin?
Yeah, I want to speak out as a tag member. I think that this was a motion that was not understood late in a meeting. We all had full pots of coffee, and we consistently chose not to include elements of the IECC in our integrated draft. And it would be very foolish for the SBCC MVE committee here to proceed with two documents, which code change proposal proponents are asked to correlate. We live in a time of economic concern here. We have limited staff, and this is going to do nothing but create confusion at the tag level. It's going to create more time for Krista, and I would encourage this this body to recommend to the council that we proceed with a single integrated draft, and not two bodies of rules which we're trying to craft a code from. So
Kevin, we seem to have lost you, but just to reply to your comments, it's not as if these two versions are so dramatically different. And at the end of the day, our focus is to create a minimum code to increase energy efficiency. And if we're talking about economics and how that's involved, certainly anything we can do to reduce the cost of housing in the state of Washington is something that's very, very worthwhile. So, Todd, please go ahead.
Without commenting on the merits of the question here, my technical question is, unlike the other codes where only the Washington amendments are in the WAC, it's my understanding the energy codes are completely written into the WAC. So what does this look like? Because essentially we're saying we're overwriting the entire WAC with the model code, rather than using the WAC as the basis. Is that understood in the right question?
Well, I would think that we make significant enough amendments each code cycle to the existing Washington State Energy Code that it is a rewrite of the WAC. So whether it be our model code or the international model code, when it's said and done and voted on and passed, it's a rewrite to the WAC every time around. So I don't see that as being too much different. Gavin, did you have further comments?
Yeah, Chair Damon, I want to respond. Our codes are remarkably different than the IECC. And again, that's the question that we're discussing here. Why would we be asking for proposals from a document which isn't even in the WAC? We have the Washington State Energy Code, and we now have a integrated draft as recommended by a TAG. And then we have this outlier, which does not correlate. It doesn't correlate in energy, and it doesn't correlate in language. And I really feel strongly that it would be foolish, again, I'm just going to state that, to proceed with two documents which proponents are asked to write from. So I think I was kind of responding to you there. I was also responding to Todd. So happy to answer any more questions, but I don't think the TAG understood what was going on here. Thank you.
Thank you, Gavin. And and as a TAG member, most of us were there, and we have it right on the screen in front of us that in addition to the draft, the TAG voted to move forward the 2024 IECC as an option. And I'll remind everyone that at the call for the question, nobody voted not to call the question. And so this passed unanimously from the TAG level, and now suddenly we're trying to switch directions at the committee level. So I would want to honor what passed at the TAG and give this option to the people. It's not let the residents of the state decide which way they want to go. Chell, please.
Yeah, I think Gavin is expressing concern as a TAG member who may not have understood the vote. I didn't understand the vote, the motion actually, even as chair. I guess also I think it'd be foolhardy to move forward with both. And I think I expressed the reasons. I think what you're asking is for the volunteers on the TAG to double their amount of volunteer time, including the TAG chair, to essentially run two codes through there, or else we're going to have a bunch of upset proponents if we move forward with one base code early in the process, which, as TAG chair, I would probably do that. I would probably say, I think we need to move forward with one and not both. Writing two custom codes takes twice as much work as writing one custom code. And I don't think that's what the TAG members signed up for. So I think from a process standpoint, I don't think it would be the good use of anybody's time to create two custom codes, one based on this IECC or the based on the model code and one based on the Washington State Energy Code integrated draft. I think that would be a great disservice to the volunteers on the tag. And I would, as chair, probably suggest that we early in the process decide which base code we're doing so we don't have to double the amount of time we spend.
Jill, I'll remind you again that every single other code we have is based on the international code. We talk about staff resources, the ICC and the participants in the code process there. That's 10 times the amount of brain power that we have to offer here in the state of Washington. I'm fortunate to be a part of that process now at the international level. I admire it. I think it's well vetted. To say that this 2024 or to imply that it's somehow inferior or that we've got a code that's so unique and so special that, you know, it's the holy grail, we can't touch it, just seems disingenuous. And I see no issue.
Point of order, that's not what I said.
Okay, well, that was, I'm sorry, I guess that was my takeaway. I stand corrected, but nonetheless, I think we need to leave the option to the people. So, Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to correct some things that were said on the record and that weren't quite 100% correct. So the motion was made, it was discussed to understand the motion. The call to question didn't occur until after it came time to debate. Nobody opposed a call to question. It was not unanimous. It was 8 people for it, 4 people against it, and a couple abstained. And then, I mean, you've heard one tag member who is opposed to it, and he was opposed to it. He's one of the 4 who voted against it also. So, I mean, you had a 2/3 majority who said they wanted it to go forward. So that's just correcting the stuff on the record.
Okay. Do you think that as written on the screen, is it displayed correctly?
I think that is captured it 100% correctly on there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Katie?
Yeah, sorry, I don't know if he's still on here, but I did talk to Gavin, and I do not believe that I think he voted yes for it, and oh, he is on here if he wants to confirm. So he was one of the people that voted yes, and so I think that there is enough evidence, I think, to show that with the chair and one of the tag members saying that they didn't quite understand the motion, to say that, you know, given the amount of conversation that happened, that it wasn't a full, robust conversation, and understanding that you called the question. So, I mean, I'm just to correct that piece of it.
I did not call the question.
No, I know you didn't. Sorry. I mean that just to correct that Gavin voted yes for the proposal, and now is, you know, upon reflection, realizing that based on this, what's in the report is not what he was thinking it was. But he's here. I think he can say that himself.
Hey, Gavin, would you like to respond?
Yeah, you know, my primary concern here is similar to what Shell is saying. It's a process question. That's what this committee's purpose is. This committee's purpose is to guide staff, guide resources. We do have a different energy code than the IECC, and we're responsible for moving that process through efficiently. This is going to be a very confusing process, and that's what this committee's responsibility is. It is fully within this committee's purview to say, you know, hey, we're proceeding with a single document, not 2, and just here to voice those concerns.
Okay. Change is hard. I get it. So, Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe it'd be helpful if I read through the transcript of who voted how, because I have that up, and it does show Gavin voted no. But I could read through the whole list if you want, if that's useful. If you guys want to,
I think it's suffice to say, you know, it's 8-4. You know, we're not at a tag meeting, so there's not an opportunity here for a motion to reconsider. We are now moved to another body. If we were still at a tag meeting, then that might be valid if somebody wanted to. So one of the people who voted with the majority wanted to reconsider, we could do that, but the motion was made and passed at the tag level. Katie, is your hand still up? If not, I'll go on to Chell.
Thanks. Sorry, I was typing. I'm gonna make a motion to advance the Washington State Energy Code Residential Integrated Draft to the council. With only a reference to the 2024 IECC, but not as a parallel option.
So you're changing what was submitted from the tag to the committee.
Yes.
I would second that.
Okay, we have two committee members that have made a motion to strike the tag report of considering the 2024 IECC. And simply, can you elaborate on consider it a reference? I don't know exactly what you're referring to there.
Did you ask me to elaborate?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think the reasons I've stated, I'll repeat them. I think the accepting, you know, I guess there's two things that could happen if we didn't do this. One would be we would accept code proposals on both integrated draft options. And we would spend twice as much time because now we're essentially creating two codes. The other option is that we would early in the process decide which of the base codes to go with. And that would mean that the proponents on perhaps half of the proposals would simply not even have their proposals heard, and all their economic analysis and other analysis would essentially be ignored because we would have we would have decided which base code to go with. So I think either of those are really bad options. And that's why I made the motion.
Okay. And I'll remind everyone that in 2021, clearly the meat of our code is table 406.3. And in 2021, we put forth two tables to be considered. And there was no, opposition then, and this is not much different than that, but. So the motion on the table is to amend the tag report? Charles, this is your report in essence.
Well, I don't know whether we need to, I guess we'd amend it between now and when the council, we wouldn't necessarily amend the tag report. We would just amend the report that the committee would send to the council, which I guess could, I don't know, do you write the letter to the council or I don't know the next process, so I don't know how to modify the next process. But I did want to correct something. But now I'm forgetting what that was. I'll go back to my notes.
I think maybe you're correct that amending the tag report after the fact is probably not correct, but if I could try to summarize your motion is to accept the tag report, however, to strike consideration of the 2024 IECC as an option.
Yes, it would be included as a reference, but not as an option to accept code proposals against.
Katie, does that match your second?
Yes, that does.
Okay, any discussion on the motion on the table? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Three in favor, any opposed? Can we get a division of the House, please? Krista, could you do a roll call vote?
I got it. Todd Bayreuther.
I'm afraid it cut out, so I can't vote right now. I don't know the question.
Would you like to hear the question, Todd?
Please.
You're right, you're cutting in and out.
Yeah, go ahead, please. If you
Okay.
don't mind restating the question.
No, not at all. The motion is to accept the tag report. However, to not consider the 2024 IECC as an option, but only in reference.
Okay, thank you.
So Todd, how do you vote?
Aye.
Shell Anderson.
Yes.
Ben Omura.
Yes.
Katie Sheehan.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Is there any other discussion on the 2024 Washington State Energy Code tag report and integrated draft?
Chair,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Todd.
Man, just thank you, everyone. Yeah, thank you, everyone, for the. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for the discussion.
Todd, I'm afraid we're losing you.
We can
Todd, I know you're driving and we're losing you. If you come up to a better reception, please feel free to chime in. Assuming you can hear me. Okay, is there anything else in this report that people would like to comment on? I guess we've already made a motion and passed it, so we'll pull up the agenda and move on to the next thing if we could, please. Okay, next item on the agenda is 2 requests for opinions. If I could ask staff, if I were to hand the gavel to someone else, would we still have a quorum?
Yes.
Okay. Would somebody volunteer to be able to take, and my apologies for not being able to be here, but again, I have a big presentation to make and misunderstood the timing. Ben, would you like to take over?
I'd be happy to take over, although I'll note I do see Jay on the call now.
Yeah, except I'm not a member of the committee. I'm just here to get a.
I didn't realize the website still has you as chair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Jason's eavesdropping. Okay. Ben, if you'd be so kind as to take over to look at the 2 opinions and conclude the meeting, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody, for your time, and I will see you at the next go round. Thank you.
All right. So Krista, you have the state building code opinion 25 March 01 on the screen. This is regarding 2018 and 2021 Washington State Energy Code residential. This is from Bremerton and Ruston. Is that correct?
Yes. And their question is both the 2018 and 2021 code additions in section R403.6 reference the IRC or IMC as applicable. Can you confirm that the intent is to apply the provisions of the IRC when a project falls within the scope of the IRC and to apply the provisions of the IMC when the buildings are outside the scope of the IRC? And the proposed answer is yes, that is the intent.
All right. Any committee members or members of the public have any comments here? Or I know we have some representatives from the municipalities if they want to make any comments regarding the question or how it's being applied.
Hi, this is Michael Barth. On this particular one, really, it's pretty clear cut. I could comment on the next one. With this one, really all I can say is thank you for hearing it, and thank you for entertaining our questions and our seeking of clarity.
All right. Thanks, Michael. And Krista, I guess one thing I'm trying to remember if chapter 15 or maybe some of the other technical chapters in the IRC do refer back to the IMC. But I think that relationship is carried through in the scope sections that are referenced in the question.
And I don't think there's anything in reference to the ventilation that would go back, to my recollection anyway.
All right. All right. So yeah, I think this one seems pretty clear. Someone want to offer a motion to accept this as the State Building Code Council interpretation?
So moved.
Thanks, Joel. For a second. I guess it would be, we would need Katie or Todd, if Todd's still in line, to second that.
Sorry, I'll second it. I was spacing out.
No worries. Thank you. All right. Any additional discussion on this one? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. All right, let's move to the next one. Motion carries. All right, so this one's a little bit more complex, and there's two questions in this one, I believe. And this is for 2018 IMC and 2018 IRC regarding mechanical ventilation. And you can see the background on the screen here. And yeah, I guess Michael or others, if you want to walk us through the background here since you're on the call, that'd be awesome.
Okay. I was sorry, I was hearing some thoughts for the other question. This one, actually really all of these in 2015, essentially your fresh air requirement there was a section in the code that allowed for, what we all knew of as either through the wall ports or window ports, the little slidable pieces on the windows, all the air ports, etc. The code for decades has excluded the natural ventilation of kind of opening a window. And back in the 2015, with the window ports and all of that, there was provision that required those air opening inlets to also be securable. So, like a window that could be secured at 1-inch opening could satisfy it, but just natural ventilation of opening a window could not. In 2018, that whole section went away from the code. There were extensive changes in the 2018 that drove a lot of that. And what ultimately ended up was that the sentence where the whole house ventilation system shall consist of one or more supply fans, comma, one or more exhaust fans, comma, or the ERV. Also in that whole thing, it required the ducted fresh air to every habitable room. So, they kind of worked hand in hand with that. The question is kind of goes to, how what does this exactly look like in that? Because, you know, the ducted supply, that's fairly clear. One or more supply fans, you know, if you were to put an or there instead of a comma, then it would be one or more supply fans or exhaust fans, would suggest you could have either one. The fact that the way the sentence is written, it's saying, in our opinion, you know, you have to have the supply fan, you have to have the exhaust fan, or you have to have the balanced ERV system, essentially. And so, you know, what this is it's kind of seeking clarity to that. There are differentiations between group R2 and other. Sorry, I should have had my book. I was here more just to observe and as opposed
That's okay. And yeah, like feel free to
apologize for
kind of
not being
drop
prepared.
in. Yeah, but yeah, appreciate the context and
with
yeah.
that. And then, yeah, so let me get to my page here. So yeah, so the whole house supply fan shall provide ducted outdoor ventilation area to each. And then the non R2, you know, is different. So I assume, let's see, so the answer actually, I mean, that's I don't contest any of that. I think the answer is consistent with what we were thinking and where we were seeking some clarity. I guess when I wrote the question, I was thinking, you know, more on the group R, as opposed to just the R2. But the R2 is where we're experiencing some challenges in, you know, certain submittals. Essentially, people wanting to revert back to like the 2015, you know, I'm going to open a window provided for this. We're interpreting this whole provision as, well, no, you have to provide essentially you have to provide fresh air to each habitable room. Code does require the ducted outdoor ventilation air to each habitable space within the residential unit. We also, you know, we're under the impression that the group R2 also requires that component to be done with a heat recovery ventilator, regardless of what the energy options are selected. And then obviously, if you're a single family home, you have other options, but in the R2 as a multi-family R2 building under the mechanical code, this is essentially what then becomes required. Let's see.
And yeah, Michael, yeah, if you want to leave it there for now, I think maybe we open up to the attendees and the committee members to take a look at this, unless you had any other quick thoughts
For
before we
question
discuss.
one, no, I'm fine there.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So for question one, so we're looking at here, this is regarding the 2018, and I believe it is this, Chris, is it the same for 2021 IMC language for the state amendment?
It's close. I don't think it's exactly the same, but I think that sentence still reads the same.
And yeah, so we questions regarding 2018 IMC section 403.4, and at the end, kind of the underlying question: do all dwelling units under 2018 IMC require a supply and exhaust ventilation system with fresh air ducted to each habitable space? And the proposed answer that staff have developed here is no. The intent was that systems for Group R2 dwelling units to be balanced systems include both supply and exhaust fans. For other than Group R2, a balanced system is not required. It may consist of any combination of supply fans, exhaust fans, or ERV, HRV. Table 403.4.3 provides adjustment factors for use if the system is not balanced. While fresh air is required to be provided to each habitable space, there are exceptions found in section 403.4.6 for adjoining spaces. And then reference to previously issued opinion 20-06, which dealt with a similar question. However, it was more focused on the distributed or not distributed question, rather than the balanced or not balanced question. And yeah, we saw that opinion. All right. Okay. So maybe let's look at question 1, answer 1 first. Any discussion from committee members or other attendees regarding this? And I guess something that you'll see for some of the 2024 proposed amendments to the IMC is that there are several clarifications that were introduced as proposed options for this section to improve the wording and clarify the intent. So that will hopefully reduce questions in the future. All right. I guess for the committee members that we have, we could definitely look at this one as a single question and make a motion based on that, or look at the second question and do both of them together. Don't hear anything. Let's move to the second question. So question 2 is regarding all 1 and 2 family dwellings in townhouses, in dwellings and townhouses, excuse me, and construction of the IRC, which is under section 1505 of the IRC for ventilation requirements. And it's asking if they require a supply and exhaust ventilation system, and then essentially balanced is in quotations there, or parentheses, with fresh air ducted to each habitable space. And proposed answer here is no. While fresh air is required to be ducted to each habitable space, the systems may be exhaust only, supply only, or a combination of exhaust and supply, and is not required to be balanced. I guess for that sentence, Krista, the balancing requirement that applies to all 3 scenarios, I believe. Is that correct?
I think that you would only have to be balanced if you had both exhaust and supply. If it's all exhaust or all supply, there's no way to balance the system.
Okay, yeah, I was just wondering if we want to try to clarify that that only applies to that exhaust and supply situation, and not the exhaust only or supply only option. Michael, go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, I appreciate and very strongly agree with the first part of that, where fresh air, or while fresh air is required to be ducted to each habitable space, because I agree, and that is what we're doing there. The only question I have then is, if kind of looking back at that sentence structure again, and while I could see a supply only system meeting this, because you have a ducted supply to every room and then you're exhausting it somewhere, so a supply only would work. What I don't understand is, how would an exhaust only system work in this scenario? In my opinion, it almost seems like that would be impossible, because if you're exhaust only, you're not getting ducted supply to the room, You know, so, and that's where it leaves that whole area of gray. Well, if people think they can do an exhaust only system, how is the rest of this provided? You know, hence the question. You know, how do we do this? What does an exhaust only ventilation system look like in a single family dwelling in that scenario, if that is what the sentence structure is intended to allow? Or is the sentence structure intended to say, you know, exhaust fan plus supply fan or HRV, which obviously provides both? So that's, you know, so that's still, you know, that leaves an open question. Again, I do very much appreciate, you know, that the first part of that, while fresh air is required to be ducted to each habitable space, that is a very important piece to acknowledge in there and to express. So the rest of it, that's, yeah, however you guys want to word things, but so thank you.
Great. Thanks, Michael. And Krista, I guess I'm looking at section 1505.4.1.1. And I don't know, the formatting on the SEC Safe website isn't great, but it has the requirement for allows supply fan shall provide ducted outdoor ventilation air to each habitable space within the residential unit as part of that. Michael, do you have another comment? Or looking at some code right now.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to bring my hand down.
No worries. Todd, good.
So this is interesting, and my mind's already going outside of this opinion. As we start to go down the multiplex requirement, so we could have up to 6 plexes, which normally would be an R2. It's going to be in the IRC. This is going to be a question there too, then, right? I don't want to expand on what is being asked here, but I just want to think ahead towards what this might mean.
This particular question, Todd, is based on the IRC, so it would be 1-2 family dwellings and townhomes.
Correct.
I'm glad you point that
we're now
out because
mandated to do 6 plexes in C.
yeah, the IMC actually has almost identical language, but for this particular question, we're asking based on the IRC.
Thank you. Yes, correct, Michael. I'm extrapolating out now that we are going to work on multiplex up to 6 plexes in the IRC. Are we future proofing to that? Even though that's not the question at hand here.
I guess technically
We'll deal with that later.
Yeah, it could apply to that. Yeah, it would be that later. That said, we've also asked these questions really based on the 2018, because 2021 actually did change some of these provisions. 2021 actually moved very clearly things like the multifamily into the commercial energy code as opposed to the residential energy code. So when we're looking at 2018 buildings multifamily group R2 apartment buildings, it still pointed to the Washington State residential energy code. And so it's that's what, so some of this has really already been resolved simply by, the fix that was made in 2021. However, this still leaves a lot of interpretation, and we're still unfortunately having to deal with a lot of buildings that are still vested under the 2018 code, where essentially, we have some challenges, and we have some, developers that really disliked the 2018 changes and would like us to simply waive requirements. And so that's why we're seeking some clarity on some of these. And, I hate to ask on an old code that we've put so much of that behind us already. It's like, why are we still beating this drum? But it's because there are, real world situations out there that kind of need some of that clarification. So, but question
Got it.
two
Thank
we
you.
try to focus that on the IRC portion of it, just because of the, that obviously the answer here may have ramifications for IMC and commercial aspects of it, but the question is more to the IRC, so that we can at least look at one book for that question.
Okay, thank you for the education. That's helpful.
Not sure it was an education, probably more just an earful, but
It was for me. My mind's full today, though. But
All right, Eric. Hello.
Yeah, so Eric Vandermeer, just listening in, trying to, sort this out. So yeah, the code language does say the whole house supply fan shall provide ducted outdoor to each habitable space. The language in the mechanical code is clear. I mean, the each habitable space, I think, appears multiple times. And like I said, that has been cleaned up for the 2021 code. I mean, so if you're going to allow exhaust only systems, you could provide an interpretation that says, exhaust only is acceptable, but you have to have outdoor air delivered to each habitable space, or, supplied to each habitable space. It would be, a clarification of the code, essentially. So if you're going to allow the exhaust only, going back to precedent from previous codes, that you would have trickle vent inlets in each habitable space. So that could be an interpretation or a way to do that, or it could be overstepping the code. You kind of have to decide what you want to do there. So.
All right, thanks, Eric. And yeah, as we're seeing on the screen, my understanding is that right now the language has in there that for whole house supply fans shall be ducted to each habitable space, but right now it doesn't seem like it provides clarity on what would be required for the exhaust only type of configuration.
So if you go back to precedent from the 2015 code, you could leverage that. It was an oversight how this was written or whatnot. So
Right, with the 2018 change, it kind of got rid of the air inlet requirements that were previously part of it.
correct. There was a lot of last minute rewriting of the 2018 code. We were focused on the mechanical code and then tried to adopt the language back to the residential code with a little bit more flexibility in the residential code. And it's pretty clear. It's clear in the 2015 code that each habitable space has to have outside air delivered to it. So again, you could provide an interpretation that that's still required. Or opinion.
Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, and that's really where what we're after here, because when I read the sentence structure, I too am involved in code development, and I know a lot of you from the different committees throughout we'll call it decades of doing this. And when it was changed from 15 to 18, I don't know if it was just overlooked, but because that whole section was actually struck. So, it was struck intentionally to eliminate those and replace them with this fresh air requirement that required the ducted fresh air to each thing. And so I think the sentence, in my opinion, for the interpretation, I think the sentence structure was very specific in that you had to have supply fan plus, the plus isn't said, you have to have exhaust fan if you're going that route, or you do a combination unit that does both, hence the ERVs, that both exhaust and supply are required. So, for example, if you did just a supply only system, you're supplying pressurized fresh air to each habitable room. Well, that air is going to go somewhere, and then one exhaust fan somewhere else in the building could alleviate that pressure and essentially balance the system. But you can't do the opposite with one exhaust fan, because you can't duct fresh air to every room in that situation. So hence the sentence structure that says you have to have, supply fan, you have to have exhaust fan in any number greater than 0. In my opinion on that. You can't have 0, but you have to have any number of supply fans, any number of exhaust fans that are greater than 0 to supply that, which ultimately, is, we know of as balanced systems. It's not saying it's a balanced system, but it is saying that if you have to provide ducted air to every room, then that has to be ducted air to every room. You can't do that with an exhaust only system and comply with what we believe the intent of the code is. And that's where, we believe the intent of the code is you have to provide both, or you have to provide an ERV, HRV, which provides both, just simply by the manufacturing of the units and the installation with ducting. So that's what we're seeking here with the interpretation request is we're looking at that sentence structure, and we don't believe that an exhaust only can satisfy it. We believe a supply only could, but you'd still have to have exhaust somewhere for relief air, essentially. But so hence the question. I mean, it's not an easy question, obviously, and we're all reaching back probably 6-7 years when this had been first discussed in the energy code world. And yes, when that change was made between 15 and 18, it changed almost everything in here. So if everybody wasn't paying attention to where did this part go, where did that part go, what's the end result, then that's difficult. But us as code officials, we're left with, well, here's the new 18 language. How do we implement this? How do we make this work for people? What does this look like? So again, ERVs, great, easy. that everything works with those. But once if you're going away from the ERVs, what does exhaust only look like now? What does supply only look like now? And it's difficult because, for the last 20 years, we've been using exhaust only whole house fans with a whole host of requirements for controls and all of that. And people got very used to that. And you throw your whole house fan in your laundry room, and you stick a sticker on it for controls, and you have a programmable control. And that's worked for probably 25 years here. People got used to that. So once the code removed essentially the trickle vents, the wall intake and all that, and said, hey, we're not doing it that way anymore. We're not going to rely on the human being to have to open a window to get healthy air. We're going to make this a mechanical system and therefore require that ducted fresh air to every habitable room. That was, in my opinion, a conscious code decision in 2018. And that's what we're trying to implement here. to have these, have healthy buildings, because we understand a lot better the moisture inside a building nowadays compared to what we knew even as short as 25 years ago. So, the technology has changed. We're making these buildings tight. We seal everything up, but we as human beings produce a whole lot of moisture just by breathing inside them. And then the smaller units you get, if we go back to like the R2s and you make a little studio apartment building that now you have 500 square feet and you've got 2 or 3 people living in it, that moisture becomes a even greater risk factor for mold and everything. All the more reason why we're saying we have to have, the fresh air into each room. We have to exhaust the stale air and not create these mold situations. So sorry to keep going, sorry to ramble and take everybody's time, but yeah, it is a difficult code conundrum that has left us with a couple of different challenges in several jurisdictions. So again, thank you. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Michael. Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess to reiterate Michael's saying, yeah, that is my understanding. The intent of the code from the 2018 was require the ducted filtered supply. It of course has the flexibility that would be more consistent with the other interpretations that were made on the 2018 code for the mechanical code, saying it that way. So that would not allow an exhaust only system. You would not require an ERV. You would require a supply fan that has filtered air going into each habitable space. So you have supply fan and exhaust fan or the HRV. So that's the sentence you're trying to interpret, how the or is applied, and that's all you're interpreting.
That is what it boils down to. Yes.
Yeah, I guess the second part of the question is if it's required to be balanced, which I think we can clarify based on the adjustment factor table, that it's not necessarily required to be a balanced system. But I think this interpretation point and the main clarification here is to provide guidance based on the intent for if an exhaust only system is available as an option for the 2018 and 2029 codes.
Yeah, I would say the intent of the code proponent was no, it's not. And exhaust only was not an option. We go back and look at the code proposals. So.
And if I may, so what I would assume then is, for an answer to the question, could be, no, it is not required to be balanced, but yes, it does require both a supply fan and an exhaust fan to satisfy the code requirement.
And it's really not supply only, right? Because you have to have supply and exhaust. I mean, I guess you don't. Well, You're saying, can you just do supply only and not do any exhaust as part of your whole house system, make all your exhaust part of the local exhaust system?
Yeah, it does ultimately make it a combination of exhaust and supply, however you look at it. It really can't be just supply only because you've got exhaust somewhere. And and it can't be exhaust only, but the combination works. And because it doesn't have to be balanced, that can be any number of supply fans, or maybe one supply fan ducted to everywhere, and then any number of exhaust fans to relieve that air. So, so that is probably how, it's not really a supply only, it is a combination system in that circumstance where you have a supply fan, but then you have, 4 different bathrooms, each with bath fans that are being taken into consideration for the relief of that. So technically that is a combination system.
I guess I would look back at the top section 1505.4.1 where it's describing the whole house system operation to maintain the minimum ventilation rates that are outlined later in the code. And based on the interpretation that we're saying those elements are required to be part of that whole house ventilation system, it would seem, if we were to follow that both of those supply and exhaust elements would have to operate together to maintain that minimum airflow rate.
I think that's where they could make an argument with the balancing. If they were interconnected, then yes, that would be, that would be typical of a balanced system. But if it's allowed to be unbalanced and you've got a supply fan supplying air to everywhere and you've got 1 or 2 exhaust fans running at various times, then that would be what we would all consider to be an unbalanced system, which theoretically could be allowed based on that, because we're not, if it's not specifically requiring a balanced system, but it is requiring both supply and exhaust, then that's what that could look like, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can lean on that second sentence in that paragraph that says whole house mechanical ventilation system with supply and exhaust fans. It says you got to have both in that sentence.
And it also says that, local exhaust fans can act as part of the whole house ventilation system.
Yeah. But it's very clear in the second sentence that you have to have supply and exhaust fans, and then you go to the applicable sections. It doesn't say supply or exhaust fans in that sentence.
So, of course, I'm not on the committee, so I won't offer necessarily the wordsmithing, but yes, I agree very much with Eric's assessment of that.
I think this matches the intent of what the code change proponent was trying to accomplish.
And maybe Krista, we change the second sentence to get rid of the while, just put fresh air is required to be ducted to each habitable space. And systems may be a combination of exhaust and supply fans, or ERB and HRB with integral fans. And then I guess you could move the table reference after the first sentence. And then I guess, do you think we need to put in a clarification that fresh air is required to be ducted to each habitable space by the supply fan system? Just adding that at the end of the sentence. But otherwise, Eric, Michael, do you feel this kind of matches the intent that you've seen from the code? And Eric, you probably know or remember some of the discussion that went on when this proposal was introduced.
Yeah, and as Michael said, this was a total rewrite of the ventilation code, and there was a lot of focus on the mechanical code, and then less focus on the residential code. But yeah, this is my understanding of what was intended by the code change proponent, and I don't, yeah, I mean, it's good to say supply system like you're saying. I don't know how you could distribute fresh air through the exhaust system, but yeah.
Agreed. And 6 years later, our heads are still spinning.
All right, so we've kind of rewritten the answer here. Any additional discussion from committee members or other folks on the call? All right. Any additional discussion, or is anyone on the committee ready to offer a motion to have these posted or move these forward as interpretations from the council?
So moved.
Hey, Ben. Okay. Second, this is Todd. And then can I ask a question?
Sure. I think Todd, you seconded and then you wanted to ask a question.
Yeah, and just to clarify, the intent here is to approve it, the opinion as the committee, right? Not forwarded to the council?
I believe so.
Yeah, sounds like it. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, the idea is we can approve it today without going to the council.
Yeah. Just want to clarify that that's the intent. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so we have a motion on the table to approve this opinion and publish the interpretation. Is there any further discussion? And this is, Chell, to clarify, this is for both answers 1 and 2.
Correct.
Thank you. All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Hearing none, motion carries. All right. So we only had those 2 opinion requests. Okay.
Correct.
All right. So we're going to go to agenda item 6, other business. So any committee members or members of the public have any items to bring up that were not on the agenda?
Excuse me, when will a transcript of the meeting be available, please?
I'll defer that to Krista and staff.
We don't prepare transcripts. We do minutes, and they typically take 2 to 3 weeks.
And when do the
The
recordings
recording of
go
the
up?
meeting will be posted early next week.
Okay,
And
so
those,
we
oh,
can get a recording of the meeting, video and audible.
Yes.
Thank you.
yeah, and typically those go up on YouTube and they have auto-generated transcripts or captions at least. All right, any other items? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. Todd, second.
Second.
All right, second, Katie. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. All right, thanks all for getting through the agenda and discussion today. Everyone have a great weekend, and I'm sure we'll see many of you next week.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone.